La Llorona, the weeping woman. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it an eerie melody of grief and despair. Nestled in a small secluded village near the banks of the Rio Blanco, the locals spoke in hushed whispers about a cursed entity that roamed the area after dark, La Llorona. The legend was simple, yet terrifying. Centuries ago, a woman named Maria fell into a fit of madness after discovering her husband's infidelity. Consumed by rage, she drowned her 2 children in the river before realizing the horror of her actions. Unable to bear the guilt, she took her own life. From that day forward, her spirit was doomed to wander the earth, wailing for her lost children. Some said she punished those who trespassed near her waters. Others claimed she sought to replace the children she lost. For generations, the villagers took the legend seriously, avoiding the river at night and lighting candles along its banks as offerings of peace. The Dare. In the bustling city, 4 friends, Ana, Carlos, Javier, and Sofia, were restless for adventure. They were in their early 20s, full of bravado, and often sought excitement in exploring local myths. Ana had heard of the legend of La Llorona through her grandmother and suggested a trip to the village for the Day of the Dead festival. "It's just a story," Javier laughed as they planned. "Ghosts don't exist." Sofia, however, was hesitant. "I've heard too many tales about that place," she warned. "They say her wail can drive you mad." "Exactly why we should go," Carlos said with a grin. "Imagine the videos we could make, urban legend hunters." Arriving at the village, they found it alive with vibrant colors, marigold petals, and sugar skulls adorning the streets. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a somber mood settled. The villagers gathered near the riverbank, lighting candles and muttering prayers. "Why do they do that?" Sofia asked a vendor selling tamales. "It is to guide the spirits of the lost," the man said, his voice low. "And to keep her away, La Llorona," Carlos scoffed. "What's she going to do, cry us to death?" The man's expression hardened. "Mock her, and you will find out. She cries for her children, but she takes anyone foolish enough to cross her path. And remember this, if you hear her wail close, she is far. If it sounds distant, run." Intrigued, Javier proposed a midnight visit to the river. Ana hesitated, but the others persuaded her. "It's just a story," Carlos repeated. "What's the worst that could happen?" The riverbank. At midnight, the 4 friends crept to the river, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The air was thick and damp, carrying the scent of wet earth and decaying leaves. The Rio Blanco stretched out before them, its waters shimmering under the full moon. The only sounds were the rustle of leaves and the occasional croak of a frog. "See?" Carlos said, skipping a stone across the water. "No ghosts." But Ana couldn't shake a sense of foreboding. The stillness felt unnatural, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. "We shouldn't be here," she whispered. Suddenly, a faint sobbing echoed across the water. The group froze. "Did you hear that?" Sofia whispered, clutching Ana's arm. "It's probably an animal," Javier said, though his voice lacked conviction. The sobbing grew louder, more desperate, until it became a piercing wail that sent shivers down their spines. "She's close," Ana gasped, remembering the vendor's warning. "No," Carlos argued, his bravado faltering. "If it sounds close, it means she's far." Before they could decide, the water began to ripple violently, as though something was rising from its depths. The mist along the river thickened, and a figure emerged. A woman in a tattered white dress, her long black hair cascading down her face. The appearance. The figure hovered above the water, her feet grazing its surface. Her movements were unnatural, jerky, as if she were a puppet controlled by unseen strings. La Llorona, Sophia whispered, her voice trembling. The woman raised her head, revealing hollow eyes that wept streams of black tears. Her mouth stretched unnaturally wide as she let out another mournful wail. Javier stumbled backward, his flashlight shaking in his hand. "It's not real, it's just a trick," he shouted, trying to convince himself. But when she extended a skeletal hand toward him, a wave of icy cold swept over the group. They felt her sorrow, her rage, as if it were their own. "Where are my children?" she wailed, her voice reverberating like a thunderclap. "The chase, run!" Anna screamed, pulling Sophia by the arm. The group turned and fled into the forest, their footsteps pounding against the earth. The wailing resumed, but it was distant now, far too distant. Carlos paled. "She's close," he shouted, remembering the vendor's warning. Branches clawed at their clothes as they ran, the forest seeming to conspire against them. Anna turned briefly and saw La Llorona gliding effortlessly through the trees, her dress billowing as though caught in a storm. Javier tripped and fell, crying out as the specter loomed over him. Her face twisted with fury, her voice shrieking louder than ever. "Where are my children?" she demanded. Anna and Sophia hesitated, wanting to help, but Carlos grabbed their arms. "We can't save him," he yelled, dragging them forward. Javier's screams echoed through the forest, then abruptly stopped. The curse. When the group finally reached the village, they were breathless and trembling. Javier was nowhere to be seen. The villagers were waiting, their faces grim. The vendor approached, shaking his head. "She took him," he said solemnly. "He will wander with her now, lost between worlds." Anna clutched the vendor's arm. "How do we stop her?" "You can't stop her," he replied, "but you can appease her. Light candles by the river. Pray for her children. It may keep her at bay, for now." The remaining friends followed his instructions, but the haunting wails of La Llorona continued to echo through the night, a chilling reminder of her eternal grief. Months passed, but Anna couldn't shake the memories of that night. She often dreamed of La Llorona, her hollow eyes and desperate cries haunting her sleep. Tourists visiting the Rio Blanco reported strange occurrences, unexplained sobbing, shadowy figures near the water, and dreams of a weeping woman. In time, Anna realized the truth. Once La Llorona marks you, she never lets go.